What you can hope for is that you are completely worn out and you don't know up from down, left from right. You can't figure out or make sense of anything at all. It feels insane that we're living in this political climate and that all of the horrors of our history are being repeated over and over again right in front of us, and that we might feel completely helpless in the face of it. That's all part of this jangling, shook up feeling. And I'm saying we can hope for this because underneath that, the deep hope is that we get that top layer brushed aside so we get really clear about what we stand for and what we want out of this life. This one life that we have as this incarnation, this being, this configuration of selfness. This is what we've got. And letting all of this storm around us be what it is, sometimes, and this is the hope, because we can get lost in it too, but the hope is that it helps us get really seated into ourselves so we know what we want to live for, where we want to focus our time and our attention, and how we want to occupy our bodies in this time of incredible possibility and change. So I still feel hopeful about this, even though for me it's a hard time. And lots of changes are happening, not just like out in the political world, but just like personally. Feels like change is coming at a rapid pace. Hello and welcome, or welcome back. I am your host, Ann Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway?, where I take some time every 2 weeks to check in on the moon, whether it's new or full, and I share what's coming up for me as an intuitive and as an artist. I use my imagination and my intuition together to tell a story, to share what's going on by surfing the present moment. Sometimes I call it channeling. Most recently, I've been calling it a hybrid of channeling and imagination. And I'm wondering over using imagination as a good way to brainstorm for the future. I hope this inspires you to look for your own waves of presence, to look for your own imaginings around the future, dreams of falling in love with your own future. And ultimately, I hope this becomes an internal revolution that I believe is necessary to usher us into the future collaboration of being here together. I'm always especially interested in my own and others' experiences of spirituality, of self-inquiry, and the question, what are we here for? And what is the meaning of life? This is an especially special new moon because it's not only the new moon, it is also the new year, the Chinese New Year of the horse. And I cannot tell you what that means. You have to go look that up, and I don't think that will be hard. But I'm going to tell you what it feels like to me, because the horse has all kinds of sense of movement and power and strength. And the image that I have is actually riding on the horse of this new year, and the feeling of being seated in the saddle or in my own seat, and how I can ride along with a real sense of empowerment and movement and motion. So I'm being responsive to the motion. I'm moving with momentum through space, but I also feel my sits bones. I feel the groundedness of being centered in my pelvis. And there's something that I'm hoping for around this whole new year where, yep, we're going to feel the momentum. I'm feeling that now, just personally. Like I thought I was going in one direction and then, oops, nope, that's not going to work. And oh, I thought I was going to even arrange my room in this way. And then, oh, nope, that's not going to work because of this. And this feeling like really needing to be flexible with momentum. Like sometimes we can be flexible and it doesn't feel so like there's so many things up in the air. This is like juggling flexibility, like the flexibility to be able to juggle and catch something that's going way off in another direction that you weren't expecting is really different than having something spill on the floor and you're just picking up the pieces. This feels like juggling, and it's kind of wonderful and exciting because there honestly feels like a lightness about it. And I think that's why I'm feeling quite hopeful. But at the same time, it's almost like, I don't know if you, I don't think everybody has an experience of being a proficient juggler. I know this is true, but let's just imagine that you do. And imagine that as a juggler, you cannot keep your focus just on one ball. You have to change your perspective where you're kind of taking it all in, and there's a lot happening. And it's more like you're using your peripheral vision, because if you just followed one ball, you would miss all the other things that are happening. So it does seem like there's this stepping back so that we can use a sense of energetic peripheral vision. It's not just what you're doing with your eyes. And a rooted groundedness, even though the ground under us might be more, it might feel more like a moving horse than what you're used to in your like seated meditation posture, if that's what you do. There's just a lot of moving pieces, which creates excitement. And we are going to have to counter that with a deep-seated groundedness inside of our being. And so here's my example. Okay, I live in Maine. It's pretty gorgeous out right now because February has this full sheets of beautiful snow. And it's kind of deep this year. So it's gorgeous and reflective, and the sun shines and it sparkles, and it's cold enough that it doesn't melt right away. And it's time to put out the maple taps. So we did that this weekend. And we were putting the taps out, and the snow was just deep enough. I was driving a golf cart with chains on the tires, so we were doing all right through the deep snow, which we made a path for. But if you just went off a little bit, or the angle of the path was just so, I was spinning out a little bit. And I was noticing that when I was spinning out and the golf cart was having a little bit of trouble, I was like tensing my whole body, squeezing my hands on the wheel and like, oh! Even though I was not doing any of the work, all I had to do was kind of steer. But I could feel myself, my whole body just like tensing up. And I had this moment of consciousness where I realized I did not have to squeeze my whole body just because I was sort of in a tight situation with this vehicle. Right? I mean, I had to come back home to myself and realize that this was a sticky situation, but I was allowed to relax because I wasn't making the situation any better by squeezing my butt cheeks together and squeezing the wheel, but I was so tense. And so I think that's about this moment where just really it's okay to relax in tense situations. In fact, I think we're made for that. Like that might be the superpower of the moment, is finding someplace inside where it's okay to be safe, to be relaxed, and to slow down no matter what's going on in front of us or what's going on around us or even further than we can see or feel. This doesn't actually feel that different than any time I ever do the podcast. I would never advise you not to relax. But I think the warning is, I think life is going to feel like fast forward for a little while. Necessarily. Like maybe there's some shit we need to fast forward through. Like we might appreciate it. And yet, if we're not aware that things are going to feel like they're on fast forward, we could spin out and burn out. And right now is the time not to burn out. This is a real kindling of the fire. So we want to figure out, how do we temper our internal combustion? Sometimes it is slowing down, and sometimes it really is just laying down. Not just only when you're sleeping or when you're too exhausted, but like maybe, I don't know, it wouldn't be terrible to just be like, you know what I do? Twice a day, whether I like it or not, I lay down and get my knees over my heart. And I just do that for myself because that's a good thing to do for a body. You know what I mean? Like, and also, like I've started doing this and I know it's a good thing to do, but I always forget. But I try to drink a tall glass of water before I have my tea or coffee in the morning. Like actually try to get myself a little hydrated first thing. It's a good idea, but I don't always do it. So whatever those things are, that are those small items of self-care, as we move into this time of fast forwarding, don't let them get forgotten or don't leave them behind in all of this. Before we even started, I pulled some of my angel and yoga cards that sit together in a ceramic bowl that I made in high school, actually, and it still lives with me. We get self-inquiry, blessedness, and oneness. So as we do the self-inquiry, holding on to blessedness, because sometimes self-inquiry can go into sort of like shame and blame. So we want to feel that we want to know more about ourselves with a curious compassion, knowing that every little part of us is blessed. Every little part of us has a sweetness to it. And that there is a oneness where we're also not alone in our quirky things, that you can usually always find somebody that has the same kind of turns and twists that you might. And a lot of times getting involved in our hobbies and passions and creative joys can help us find people with similar unique twists and turns. And that is a special way of forming community and connection, and incredibly valuable. We also get sensitivity, integrity, and compassion. I'm saying them together because I drew them as almost like medicinally together. Sensitivity, integrity, compassion. So being sensitive with deep integrity to our own being and having compassion through that. So we're not doing this in a backwards way. I sort of went into my spiritual journey thinking compassion above all else, even compassion above my own integrity. And sometimes my integrity means that I can have a distant compassion, but I hold on to myself first. And that's just because I have a real history as a people pleaser, and I will abandon myself because it feels so good. It's such a delicious addiction to take care of somebody else before I care for my own self. And with all of that, the last punctuation to it is ease. So all of this comes with ease. And if you find yourself moving out of ease, of course I'm saying this to myself, if you find yourself moving out of ease, that is a red flag. And I was saying this to my friend the other day. Be cautious. Be concerned if urgency pops up. because urgency takes you out of ease. And be suspicious of that whenever that comes up. And freedom is a big topic here for this new moon time, this germination of freedom. And what is your personal freedom? And freedom meaning the ability to choose, the ability to make choices, to express your inner desires is a kind of freedom. And sometimes it's about expressing them to our own selves, and it takes practice and it takes work. We may not even know what we want, but often we know how we would like to feel. So the work here is choosing and acting in a way that aligns with what we want to see in the world. So, the old way for me to do it would be to make sure that everybody else around me was okay, whatever that meant, like doing all the things that I knew to do for everyone around me. And then I would have the ticket to go and meet my own needs. And this freedom that I'm talking about has to do with creating this inner world that moves to our outer world so that we are living peace and harmony for ourselves and then sharing it. I know this feels like old news. It feels like, this is the same thing over and over again of having to create the world that we want to see inside of us and surrounding us. But if you think about yourself sitting in a cocoon and you want to build the atmosphere in this cocoon, very much like me driving the golf cart and being tense, I want to build an atmosphere in this cocoon around me of peace and harmony and breath and joy and curiosity. And it is our true occupation, our true job every day to create the kind of environment around us that we want to be in, and not act as though we are not the creators of the immediate thoughts, feelings, and surroundings, that we have a lot of agency here, and we often act like we don't. And this seems like really important to hone in on right now, because if some great something is pressing fast forward on us, we want to keep up, and we cannot afford to behave in those old ways of, I'm going to feel terrible unless something great happens to me, or I'm not going to be happy unless I get some good news today, or I don't know. I don't have a good way of expressing this right now. But you know what I mean, right? You are allowed to wake up in the morning, no matter how you actually feel physically, and say, I love you. This is going to be a great day. We're going to be able to take care of whatever comes up for us. I'm not going to be limited by what I think I know about what's going on for me in this moment. And it feels like maybe it's going to take a little bit of time to get the hang of it. But I think that we have more agency over how we experience ourselves in the world. And I think we're going to have the opportunity to start exploring that more and more. And I'm hoping that that's part of this new moon, and that's part of this Chinese lunar New Year. Like, this might not work for you, but this is what works for me, is when I can really talk to myself as if there's a small child inside of me that needs to be heard. And so it really helps me if I notice that I'm feeling sadness or disappointment to say, oh, you're feeling sad, aren't you? That makes sense. You're feeling sad right now. We all feel sad sometimes. rather than what I used to do is try to either ignore that part of me that was feeling sad or talk it out of it. Like say, oh, it's really not that bad, or look on the bright side, or something like that. But what I was doing really was dismissing that feeling and trying to move on quickly. And I find that I get a lot of relief by acknowledging it. Even sometimes I have to put my hand on my heart and say, oh, I know that makes total sense that you feel like that. And somehow, by just acknowledging it back to myself, it gives me the ability to move on to the next thing more quickly. And I think by using those kinds of tools, we can create the environment around ourselves that we really thrive in. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. We're trying to create environments where we can truly thrive, that we're associating with the thoughts and the feelings that make us come alive. And sometimes we just don't feel like we have agency over our thoughts and feelings. And that's where I'm trying to point at something, is that I think we have more agency than we've been giving ourselves credit for. Now, this is just a fun little moment. Before we began, I pulled out the Nag Hammadi scriptures, which are sacred Gnostic texts, and I just randomly opened to this page and pointed out a part of it. And this is what it says. It's in a section that says concluding exhortations. What you open for yourself, you will open. What you knock upon for yourself, you will knock upon with benefit to yourself. Help yourself, my child, by not proceeding with things in which there is no profit. And I'm just going to interpret that for myself, because I don't know what the real interpretation of that is. But I feel like that benefits the idea of talk kindly to yourself. When we talk with meanness to our own selves, it is of no benefit to ourselves. So if anyone is going to speak with kindness, with hope, with joy, with prospects, we should be doing that for ourselves and knowing that it will bring benefit. It's okay to be kind, to talk kindly to ourselves. So circling back around, it's important to say that this is the time of, you might feel like you're lying to yourself, but you need to get clear with your own being, with your deep self, with your soul. What are you here for? And let's make that happen. And sometimes it's about finding the connections in the world with what brings you great joy. Not thinking that that's something that comes as a reward at the end of a pushed life or a well-served life. The time is now. And so it's important to get clear with yourself. And you may not know much. Maybe you just know that you love Beanie Babies and you just need to be around other people who love Beanie Babies. I'm trying to find something like really simple to choose, but there are certain things that you know about yourself, bring joy, that you love, and cling to those things now. There are ways that you like to be in the world. There are things you like to make with your hands. Stick with those things. And if you are in the middle of working hard through, like say that you feel like you have to finish this quilt because what you really want to do is make a teddy bear, drop the quilt and go make a teddy bear. So right? Oh, that's a weird example. But sometimes we do things or we have these projects that we think, well, I'll do that. I'm not all that interested or even invested in this thing. And when I finish that, I'll really get to the thing that I'm interested in, but maybe a little scared of. So stop doing the things that are inside of your comfort zone that bring you no personal joy or pleasure. They're just something that you can accomplish. And now is the time to kick it up into the places that you're more curious about, but maybe not as secure or maybe not as competent around. But it's a real time to push into your dreams. Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting and exciting thing to push into your dreams, because I'm telling you, now is the time. So let's turn to the I Ching. What can we know about this time? What will help us to understand this moment? So we call on the wisdom of the I Ching. And we get Hexagram 2, Earth, the receptive. The questions to ask here are, how are you being guided? How can you lend your strength? And I want to read this to you. Earth is first described in the same words as the creative force of Hexagram 1. So Hexagram 2 comes right after the creative, Hexagram 1. And so Hexagram 1 has all unbroken lines, just 6 lines on top of one another. And Hexagram 2 is all broken lines, the receptive. It is the receiver of the creative. So I'm just telling you that because they are partners in the flow of creation. So they partner together, creative force and earth receptivity. Creation unfolds from the original vital energy, creating success with an ongoing exchange between spirit and daily work. Right? That's what I'm talking about. I should have read this first. This whole moment is the exchange between spirit and daily work. And there's something that's gotten interrupted. You know, the daily work has become the daily work of something other than spirit. So the daily work of pattern or repetition or ancestral patterns. But we're really trying to get back to this here, which is an ongoing exchange between spirit and daily work, flowing through to fruition in earth. And get this, through the constancy of a mare. This is the interpretation, and which is perfect for the Chinese New Year. Boy, I'm happy. The mare is strong, tireless, and incomparably fast. She is acutely sensitive to the subtlest cues. When you have a mare's constancy, you will be steadily loyal to the truth and always alert and responsive to guidance. The noble one has a direction to go. She is purposeful. She has a destination in mind. But this doesn't mean she has her route to it already mapped out. And so at first there's confusion. You set out like a pioneer, open to all the possibilities, and find them as many as scattered rice grains. And this is how I feel often. I have so many ideas and directions that I want to go in. Hopefully we can see that they all lead to the same place. But later, since you've set yourself in motion, you can receive guidance. You, in parentheses, gain a master. A master is someone who lights the way. You gain someone or something to be loyal to, where you can find fulfillment in service. We often find this in community work, P.S. Once you have this guiding principle, which may or may not be a person, you begin to follow signs as fluently as the mare. And a little bit more, there's balance to be found between joining with like-minded people and following your own calling alone. But gaining allies comes first. Perhaps your individual sense of purpose emerges more strongly when you've learned to work responsively with others, like the mare running with the herd. And when you can spread your senses out to roam southwest and northeast without limit, you will be peacefully at home in the whole earth. That's just a gorgeous reading for this moment now. I recently started to look into the work of singing resistance. And I know that some of you that are actually listening have been doing this to. I want to share this little bit with you because I'm excited about that kind of reaching out for allies and having that help me find more purpose and joy in my daily work that connects to my spirit. This is one of the songs that we learned. These people are on just like we are. We belong to them. They belong to us. We belong to them. We belong to them. They belong to us. Well, there's a lot of songs to learn, but I was incredibly moved by the singing in Minneapolis and found out that we can all learn these songs and create small pockets of singing resistance. And I will link that in the show notes if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about. But hopefully you can find in your own ways the people that speak to you, that are already doing work that you're interested in, participating in, and that we can build communities together, that we can help each other, and we can find our way into a future that we love. Yeah. So that's it for this new moon. I wish for all of us good sleep, good hearty sleep. And if you're not getting your sleep at night, I hope that you have these delicious nap times. And as the tempo speeds up, that we all stay grounded and we enjoy the ride. May you be well. May you know peace. Oh, I got to do that again, because you can always reach out to me at www.annhedley.com. That's ANNHEDLY.com. So again, may you be well, and may you know peace, a deep peace, and may all beings everywhere, whether known to us or unknown, may they be well, and may they also know that deep peace. Bye for now.